Hi guys, Jordan from P&P Campers. I'm just going to be doing a handover video on this Rapido motorhome. It's a 776F, which means it's based on the Fiat cab. So it's on the 130 multi-jet, which is the 2.3 turbo diesel engine. So on the 2009, and we've got a couple of bits I want to run you through straight away. So under the bonnet, we've got the washer fluid, power steering fluid, engine coolant, and brake fluid. The engine oil filling point is just here at the top of the engine, and your engine oil dipstick is the red topped one just down here. So all of your sort of consumable items and refillable things are all here on the left hand side of the engine. Over towards the right, we've got your air filter down here inside this box, and because the engine battery sits under the floor in the cab, you've got a little flap just here which allows you access to the positive terminal for the battery. So that runs all the way through to the underneath of the cab where the battery actually lives, and allows you to jump start the vehicle from positive terminal there, negative terminal here. So as for under the bonnet, that is about it. The vehicle has been uprated at some point by SV Tech for 3.7 ton rather than 3.5. So onto the near side, we've got inside the passenger door, we've got the bonnet release handle. Diesel filling point is just inside this little cover here. We've then got a few things just here in this sort of area underneath this window here. So we've got this here, which is your boiler vent. So if your boiler was lit up on gas, you will feel hot air pumping out through this. We've got your fresh water filling point, so push in and round. So basically in and round to the right will put it into its locking position. In and round to the left will allow you to take it out. Next door to that, we've got the electric hookup point. So if you do have access to a hookup cable, it's always really handy to have that plugged in. This little locker here is basically just access to the back of the boiler. So if you ever needed access to this, which fingers crossed you won't, but that's what this locker here is for. Next locker along is your toilet cassette locker. A couple of things in here. You've got an external hot and cold water point in there from that little point just down there, which is what this hose is for here. And we've got the actual toilet cassette. So the toilet cassette is really easy to use. You literally lift up on the little orange handle just here, and then you'll pull this all the way out. Once you've taken that out from there, you'll be able to empty it out from this little point here. And whilst you're emptying it out, you've got a little orange button there at the back to hold down whilst you're draining it out. The flush fluid in this particular model is a freshwater flush, so that means you haven't got any separate flush fluids to worry about. And normally that would be your pink fluid, but basically in this case and most cases nowadays, the flush fluid just comes straight from your fresh tank. So at the back of the van, we've got your 3-bike rack, reverse camera, which works really nicely. And if I just have a little look underneath, looks like maybe your waste tank there, and your waste drain is that little handle just over there on the off side. So we've got this locker just here at the back, which is essentially your garage locker. Spare wheel is just inside there, and your leisure batteries down there as well underneath that little hatch. I believe either that or is access to the tank, not sure. All of your electronic bits and pieces for the vehicle are all underneath this little cupboard, so it's really handy little space to have. If I just get in and show you properly. So over on the left hand side, we've got there your 12 volt fuses. So next to each fuse, there is a little diagram telling you what it does and what size it should be. So if you have any really sort of simple problems, like for example, you come in one day and see that the, I don't know, let's just say the lights weren't working. You could, if you wanted to, come in here, lift the bed up, basically a lot easier to get in there if you lift the bed up, and have a little look for the light symbol and just check the fuse. So you know, you might be able to save yourself a lot of money and time if you can just replace the fuse in there for, you know, or either that, or if you're on holiday and you can't get to us for us to sort it out for you, you could have a little look in there. Could save you a lot of hassle. To the right of that, in the middle, we've got your 240 volt trip switches. So if you're hooked up on the mains, those trip switches will be live. To the right of that, we've got your 240 volt charger. So when you're hooked up on the mains, the charger will come to life from there. And the last one on the right there is your solar controller. So because you've got a solar panel on the roof, it's charging up the battery as we speak. So there's a load of spare bits and pieces that the previous owner has left behind in here. We're going to leave all of this in here. There's all sort of, you know, expensive stuff to buy and handy stuff to have. Down here underneath, we have got, as I said, your wastewater drain off handle. So you just literally twist this handle just here and it will drain your wastewater out from that pipe. Above the door here, we've got the wind out awning. So it's a Fiamma F45 awning, and you basically just unwind it from this little handle here. The awning winder is in the garage locker just there, and we have had this wound out and lubricated as part of the hab check. These two vents just here to the left of the habitation door are the fridge vents. So if you ever needed access to the back of the fridge, which again, hopefully you won't ever need to do that, but if, for example, if we had to service the fridge at some point or get to the back of the fridge for whatever reason, that's where we would go to for that. To the right of the door, we've got your gas locker. So the gas locker in here is absolutely massive. Normally these Continental vehicles are good for this sort of thing, having a really big gas locker. So we've got a Gaslow refillable bottle. It looks like an 11 kilo to me, and might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it is. So the refillable bottles are really handy. You've got a refillable point just here, refill point. Put that back on in a minute because sometimes they can be a little bit tricky, but yeah, so that's your refill point just there. Any decent petrol station, or you know, motorway petrol station, especially if you go abroad, they've got it a lot more commonly over there, but that is your refill point for your gas. It has got a sort of like a thing where you can't really overfill it. It will stop you from being able to overfill it, so you don't have to worry too much about that. 80% overfill protected. The filler hose has got till 23 to be replaced. And the only thing I need to sort of explain to you really is that you've got this here, which is your valve to turn it on and off. So clockwise all the way in is how you turn the bottle off. Anti-clockwise all the way open is how you turn it on. And if you find that when you turn the gas bottle on, you still don't get any gas coming through to the vehicle, obviously first thing to check is just make sure you've actually got gas in the bottle still. There is a little gauge on the top there telling you how much is in it. But if you still can't get any gas to come through, press and hold on this little green button just here for 3 seconds, and that will allow the gas purge to come through there, which is your crash sensor. So if the vehicle thinks that you're in a crash, that will stop the gas coming through to the vehicle. So you do have to reset it every now and again. Oh yeah, there you go, it tells you there. There you go. So in the cab itself, I'll just run you through a few bits. As I said, you've got the reversing camera from that little screen just there. Just pop the radio front out because that was still on. Yeah, so reversing camera up there. You've got the optional extra cruise control on the stalk just underneath the indicators and lights. Indicators and lights from this one here. Washers and wipers are on the right hand side. On the actual door itself, you have got your electric adjusting mirrors, windows, speakers just underneath there as well. You have also got the optional extra 6-speed manual gearbox, air conditioning from this little switch just here. You've got your ASR switch just there. You can lock and unlock the cab from inside. You've got your hazard warning lights, fog lamp, the rear heater, rear window heater switch. Obviously won't do anything at all because this hasn't got the original back of the van anymore because it's been converted, so that won't do anything at all. Pioneer head unit just there, as far as we know, working absolutely perfectly. Just make sure that you do what I just did there. So when you're not using the vehicle, push this little bottom corner button out and that'll just allow the front of the screen to come out, and that basically just stops you from draining the battery out when you're not driving. A lot of the motorhomes will do that, where they'll come on, stay on all the time. Some of them are even wired up to the leisure battery when you turn the power on at the control panel, but yeah, they're all a bit different, so there you go. All right, so what I'll do is I'll just spin around and show you into the back. So personally, I absolutely love this layout. You've got your typical kind of, you know, lounge area, although it is a really nice big lounge, feels really nice and wide. So you've got your lounge area, table folds open another half there, so you can have that double size. But yeah, so massive lounge. You've got two forward-facing seat belts, well, technically they're side-facing, I suppose, but you've got seat belts just there, proper over-the-shoulder belts. From there, and you've got then your front swivel seats. So these front seats will swivel all the way around. You've then also got the drop-down bed. So if I just show you that, it literally comes down as easy as that. So I'm just using one hand there, pulled it down, and you've got the ladder up here to allow you access to the bed. So having that bed there, I think it's such a good idea, because when it's up, you really wouldn't know about it. You know, they've got the cupboards on the bottom of it. Gas struts working really well for that bed, so you haven't, again, literally just use one hand to get that up. So a bit tricky with one hand. Right, I'll do that again in a minute. It's just tricky to do things with one hand sometimes, that's all. So yeah, so you got your manual drop down bed from up there, but as I say, you know, 9 times out of 10 when we walk people into a van like this, they don't even know that the bed's there, because you've still got the cupboards underneath. It's the same kind of wall board as on the actual ceiling, and so yeah, a really nice way to have it. So that's the layout of the vehicle. As I said, the front seats do swivel round, and in the cab as well, you have also got the opening skylight roof. So I've got it slightly open at the moment. You have got blind and fly screen for that as well, but I just thought I'd show you that working really nicely. Really extra super important that you close that properly before you start driving as well. Please God, don't drive with this open. It's bad enough when I see people driving down the motorway with these sort of like Hecky style skylights wide open, because they think they're getting a bit of fresh air, but yeah, I mean, any window on the vehicles, on the motorhomes, and the skylights especially, are unbelievably expensive, even for us to buy them in as trade. And when I say expensive, I mean I think this window up here is probably going to be 1,500 quid. That would probably be £1,000 for this one. So, and you know, that's pretty much like trade price. So please shut your skylights and windows before you start driving. It's so important. It makes me cringe, I must admit, when I see people driving down the motorway with them wide open. But yeah, so just mentioning that, once you've parked up and you've stopped, you know, use them exactly as you want to. They're made to be used like that, but they are not made to be driven down the road whilst open. Right, so the first thing I'm going to run you through inside the vehicle itself is going to be the control panel. So the control panel is up here above the habitation door. Super easy to use. You've literally got a power switch up on the top middle here. Once you turn that power switch off, everything will turn off. You've then got aux 1 and aux 2 over here on the right hand side. Now these are just basically going to be any auxiliary power, so any 12 volt power that maybe has been added aftermarket, or sometimes it can be for these little sockets here, various little bits and pieces. To be honest, they're all different. Every motorhome really is different to what's powered by those two aux switches. Not every motorhome has those two switches, but you'll pretty quickly work out what they both do. Sometimes they won't do anything at all. There's another thing to point out, but basically if you turn the power switch on and then turn aux 1 and aux 2 on, anything that has 12 volt power going to it will be powered on. You've then got your lights switch just there, water pump, and your fan. So the fan is in relation to this system over here. It's an extractor fan, and without that switch there on, shouldn't work. Okay, so that's what that fan switch there does. The water pump is the next most important thing, really. I mean, the light switch is self-explanatory. That's just going to give you power to your lights. The water pump is the next most important one I'm going to run you through. So I'll get to that in just a minute, but I'll just finish up on the control panel. Over on the left-hand side, we've got at the top here, we can go through and we can change the time. That's basically just your clock button there. You've then got your battery levels. So you've got leisure battery. We've got a little caravan symbol. That's our leisure battery voltage, 13.7. That is really, really good. Press it again and that'll show you how many amps are being drawn from the battery. Press it again and it shows us the engine battery voltage, 12.4. Also absolutely perfect for a resting battery voltage. And then back to the home screen. If I just quickly explain about that. So the reason that your leisure battery is up at nearly 14 volts and the engine battery is down at 12.5 is because the solar panel is charging the leisure battery. It's not sending any charge to the engine battery, which is why the engine battery is sat at a normal resting battery voltage at 12.5, and the leisure battery is up there at a charging voltage at 13.7. So that is absolutely perfect. That is essentially exactly what you want to see from the battery voltages. The bottom one here is our water levels. So literally just shows us the fresh water level there. Is saying that we've got a full tank of fresh water. So assuming that we've checked that we've got some fresh water in the tank by pressing that button there, we can then turn the water pump switch on. So the reason this is quite important is because the boiler itself needs to be full of water before you start trying to light it up on gas to get the water hot. The only reason to check that the boiler is definitely full of water is by turning your pump on up there and coming over here to the sink and just literally pulling the water through. So we're going to pull the water through on the hot side first. Got good pressure coming through there. It's not coughing and spluttering at us. And then we can turn it over to the cold. Still perfect pressure, no air coming out. And when I turn this tap off, the pump should run on for a few seconds and then turn off. Which is exactly what it's just done. So doing that, seeing that there's no air coming through the tap on either the hot or the cold side, and just making sure that that tap turns itself off when the pump turns itself off once you turn the tap off, proves to you that you're full of pressure, you've got water in the boiler, and that you're good to go. You know, you're up to pressure, there's no leaks. So that is essentially, you know, easy as it gets with that sort of thing, but that's how you need to just check it. So there's no level indicator for the boiler, so that's the way that you need to check it. If you started getting loads of air coming through and coughing and spluttering and all that sort of stuff, it either means that you haven't got enough water in the tank, or that the boiler isn't quite full yet. So you just need to leave it open whilst it's coughing and spluttering and wait for it to start coming through like it was just then, and then you can turn the tap off, pump should turn off, and then that's it, good to go. So that's something that I like to run through that straight away, because if you do try and light the boiler up on gas and it's not ready, then you know it can run into some problems. Right, so that's a control panel all up there. Just trying to think if there's anything else obvious that I need to show you just here. I don't think there is. So over here we've got the sort of kitchen, really. So you've got the 3-burner hob. You have got an ignition from this little switch just here, and it's essentially just is as easy as push in and round on whichever one of the burners you want to light up whilst pressing on your igniter switch, and it will light it up. Easy as that. I don't tend to run through this sort of stuff really, because it's so self-explanatory. The oven, slightly different. You have got an ignition on that, so basically you push in and round to the right to light the grill up, as you can see, and then in and round to the left to light the oven up. You see there, the oven lit straight up. Easy as that. You have also got a light inside the oven. Yeah, super easy on that. cutlery drawer inside here, and a few extra, these are sort of like the corner covers for the screws in there. There's a few extra ones in there by the looks of it. This cupboard here opens up, nice bit of storage down there as well. Having good access to the bottom of the sink and taps is something sort of nearly unheard of in motorhomes, so it's really handy to have that. Again, if you had any problems, you know, if there was any leaks or anything in the future from one of these taps, see just how easy that is to get to inside there. Underneath this little cover is actually very, very important. So again, another thing that Rapido have done really nicely in this conversion is, and actually a lot of their conversions, is give you really good access to a lot of the things that, you know, for example, you know, if a van came in tomorrow for me to do some repairs on and they needed a new boiler valve, normally it's a case of me spending an hour taking things apart to get to these things. But in this case, it's all here, really easy to get to. And you know, in the future, again, if you have any problems with anything, super easy to get to. So under this little cover here, we've got access to this little valve here, which is your freshwater drain off point. So you literally just lift this little tab upright if you want to drain out your fresh water. And then we've got the boiler drain here as well. So the boiler drain on these newer styles is a little bit complicated, but also fairly simple. So what will happen is, this is an electronic automatic dropout valve. So if it gets to a certain low temperature, I think it's around sort of 3 or 4 degrees inside the vehicle, then this dropout valve will drop all the water out from the boiler. The reason it does that is so that the water doesn't freeze inside the boiler and cause you major damage. And so, for example, if the boiler was to drop out, what will happen is this little bit on the top just here will twist around 90 degrees, so it's facing this way, and a little blue button down here will pop out. Okay, so if it opens the drain and all the water drops out of it, that's what you'll see. You'll see this at 90 degrees from here and a little blue button popping out down here. So to close it back up again, all you have to do is turn it back round to this way here and push the little blue button in. Once you've done those two things, the water will stay inside the boiler and you'll be able to fill it back up again. So that is your little access point inside there. I can't stress enough how handy that's going to be in the future. You know, unfortunately, little bits and pieces, little leaks and things like that are inevitable. You know, these things move around a lot. There's a lot of movement. You're driving down the motorway, you know, things do move around. So, but having everything really easily accessible in here is, yeah, is so helpful. So, just move that over. Over here in the corner, we've got your boiler controls. So you have got, inside this vehicle, you've got a Truma Combi boiler. Now, Combi, in this particular case, doesn't mean, like a household Combi boiler, it doesn't mean that you get instant hot water. It just basically means that it does the heating and the hot water at this, you know, in the same unit. So at the bottom is the one that I normally like to run through first. So you see where it says Combi E. So that is your energy selector. So basically all that little dial there does is it tells the boiler whether to use gas, whether to use electric, or to use them both at the same time. When I say electric, I mean electric hookup. So it won't do anything whatsoever. If you select electric on there and you're not hooked up on the mains, it will not do anything at all. So you do need to make sure that you're hooked up. If you want to use the electric hookup function on there, you have to have the cable plugged in. For the time being, I'm going to leave it where it is now, right here in the middle, because that is your gas functionality. And as you know, we've got the gas turned on at the moment. So I'm going to leave that there as it is. If we didn't have the gas on and we did have electric hookup, I would go up either 1 or 2, which is either 4 or 8 amps of electricity, and that is what's going to draw the power from the hookup to make the boiler work. If I had both on at the same time, so if I had the gas on and I had the electric hookup plugged in, I can choose 1 or 2, which is gas and electric. As I say though, for the time being, I've only got the gas on, so I'm going to leave it there. The one above it that just says combi on it is the actual boiler controller. So this is what tells the boiler what you actually want it to do. So you've essentially got, if I do that so you can see, you've got hot water only going up once, or hot water, sorry, they're both hot water only, but you've got 40 or 60 degrees. So you've literally just got up is hot water only, down once is heating only, and down all the way to the bottom is heating and hot water. So you see there, on the older units, or much older units, you used to have the same sort of style of dial here, but it would literally say summer up, winter down. So summer going up is hot water only, because you don't want the heating to come on, and winter going down is your hot water and heating at the same time. So if you want to remember it like that, you can do, but basically 40 degrees of hot water or 60 goes up, heating only once down, heating and hot water at the same time 2 down. Back to the middle turns the boiler off, and there you go. So you then got a 12 volt socket above that and 2 mains sockets there as well. Up over here we've got massive storage lockers up the top. Okay, so you've then also got the Dometic 3-way fridge. So the 3-way fridge works on gas, 240 volt and 12 volt. You have also got the AES functionality on here, which means automatic energy selector. And as you can probably imagine, that means that when you select automatic, it should select one of these 3 options for you automatically. So if I just turn this off now, you can see there's no lights inside this little gauge here whatsoever, which means that the fridge is completely off. Again, I haven't got the electric hookup plugged in, but I do have the gas on. So at the moment, I can only use it on the gas. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to twist this little button around here to the first one. And you can see now, a bit dim, but you can see that the amber light there is on for the gas. Over on the right, we've got your temperature selector. So again, you can see all the green lights are lit up at the moment. If I turn this down, only the bottom 2 are now lit up. So that means that the fridge is on half power basically. And that's just essentially just a temperature sensor for the fridge. So the best way to gauge that is when, because you won't really be able to tell unless you get a thermometer in the fridge. Just see how much ice starts forming inside this freezer compartment is the normal way to find out how to do it. But the thing is, all of these fridges are different. The gas burns in different ways and all that sort of stuff, so they're all slightly different. So that's how you light it up on the gas. If you have the electric hookup plugged in, you can select the next one down. It's showing us a red light at the moment because the electric hookup isn't plugged in. If you were hooked up, it will be showing green. Same goes for the next one down. This is your 12 volt function, showing us a red light again because the engine isn't running and we're not driving. So the 12 volt there will only work when you're driving, and all it really does is hold the temperature inside the fridge for whilst you're driving. So basically you need to get the fridge cold first, either on gas or 240 volt electric, drive to where you're going on the 12 volt, and then switch back to one of these other 2 when you get to where you're going. So if we just choose the auto function, I would imagine, if I try and get you to see it, it should choose gas. There you go. So basically what the auto function does is it goes in this order. So it will try gas. If it realizes there's no gas there, it'll then choose the mains. If there's no mains, it will choose the 12 volt. It does all of that really nice and quickly, but that's how the auto function works. So that should do its job for you. But if you don't want to use it on that and you want to do it manually, it's just as easy to select which one you want. If you're in the absolute peak of summer, Some of these are fitted, some of them aren't, but this should be a little tiny fan in the back of the fridge to allow a little bit of extra air to pump through the back of the fridge vents. And that's for when you're trying to light up on gas in, you know, if you're in the middle of Spain, you know, nearly 40 degrees heat, you probably need that. And that's the fridge. So above the fridge, we've got this really nice tool locker, which has got your TV compartment in it. So to take this TV out, you've got a little clever bracket in there. So you basically just push left on this little bracket here, and that'll allow you to pull the TV all the way out. Push it back in and wait for that click. Up in this corner, we have got the 240 volt socket, which the telly's plugged into at the moment, a 12 volt socket next door to that, and your aerial and AV points. So they are all in there. To be honest with you, that sort of stuff isn't really covered under the habitation check. So when we go through and do our hab checks, we don't really go through and try the tellies, but I've got no reason to think that it shouldn't work. Okay, so we've obviously got the full-size fixed French bed. So the French bed means it's got a little corner cut off here to allow you access to the bathroom. Absolutely tons of storage up and around there as well. As I said, on the outside, you can lift this bed up on the gas struts there, and it holds itself up really nicely. Pull that back down again. Huge wardrobe in here with all of your paperwork and spare bits and pieces inside here as well. The aerial is this long silver bar here. So this is a tilt and turn aerial. So you've got a little nut at the top there that you loosen off in order to allow you to push this up and down and find a signal. You've also then got the TV aerial booster up in this corner, which has got a power switch on the right hand side. Okay, so the bathroom is about the last thing I need to run you through. So you've got the separate shower at the back of the vehicle, which is always really handy. And we've got the toilet down there. As I said, it's a Thetford toilet. So the top will swivel round to wherever you want it to go to. And it's as simple as this. When you want to flush the toilet, you press this button just here. That pumps around your flush fluid. And then when you want to drain it out into the cassette, you pull this handle towards you. That then drains it into the cassette. Push it back to make sure that it's closed over. And that's it. To be honest, that's normally the only thing I run through in the bathrooms, because the shower is literally hot and cold left and right. Same goes for the sink. The blinds on the windows are all very much similar to this. So literally as easy as that. Just get that a little bit out of the way. Windows. If you've got these latch style windows, you do have to push up a little bit further to allow it to come back in on itself. So just bear that in mind. Lights for the bathroom are in here as well. So, to be honest, I think I have shown everything. I don't think there's anything I've missed out, but if you think there is anything that you want going over again, or anything you think I've missed out, just give us a shout. But otherwise, we look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks very much.